All right, two quick things before we start the video today. First and foremost, whenever you're working with any airbag system, always disconnect both battery posts and then wait at least 3 minutes before you start digging into these airbags. Obviously, these things are quite dangerous, and even when you're working on them, you shouldn't be working on them directly in front of them. So if you have tools in your hand, obviously, something goes wrong, that thing goes off, you can get severely injured or die. Now for some slightly happier news, the steps that I'm going to take today on the Titan are an exact match in the manual for the Xterra and the Frontier. So, of course, all of my Xterra buddies that have been with me over the past few years, you can use these steps to replace the clock spring in your ride. And of course, all of our new Titan owner friends will be able to follow this video, of course, step for step as well. All right, so let's jump into it. Now this is a recent purchase for me, and there's definitely some lights on the instrument cluster that we want to get taken care of. And most importantly, we have the airbag light flashing. I went through the airbag reset procedure, which of course I'll put on the screen here and we'll talk about a little bit later. And that did nothing for me. So, you know, you can think to yourself, hey, there's 50 different sensors for airbags, that might be bad. And you know, it's just kind of a difficult thing to diagnose. That is until I was driving in traffic and I noticed one other symptom, and that's this. My horn. My horn does not work. So I thought to myself, hey, what is connected to the horn and also connected to the airbag? And that is our clock spring. Clock spring is what most people call it, but it's also called a spiral cable, and it is a cable that connects the moving parts of the steering wheel to the stationary part of the steering column. So obviously there's a coiled wire in there, and then as you turn the steering wheel, it allows us to keep those electrical connections even though the steering wheel is moving. So let's pull that off and get that replaced. All right, now before we get started here, remember, make sure that your battery is disconnected and has been for a couple minutes. Once you've done that, we're going to take off two bolts. So we're going to take a bolt on the left side on the back of the steering wheel, and of course on the right side of the steering wheel. So I just have a little awl here that I'm going to poke in and pop out the little cover, and then that should expose our little screw in there to take it out and of course take the whole airbag module out. Once it is unscrewed, you still have a couple electrical connectors underneath that we want to make sure are safely removed before taking it away from the steering wheel. So there's a little hole on the very back that allows you to get something into it, like a little screwdriver or something. There you go, just pop that off. It actually looks like there's a little bolt in there, so I'm just going to go grab, I assume a 10 millimeter, but I'll let you know if it's different. There's one, and then I'm going to do the other side and we should be able to pull this out. Now when you pull this away, you're going to have 3 connectors here, and one is a ground cable, so that will just pop right off. The other 2 have these little black connectors. Just want to get something in there to kind of pop those up, release them. There we go. And disconnect both of those. And now our airbag module is out. So we just want to very carefully go set this aside. You don't want to knock it or drop it anywhere. Just go set it safely on a workbench and we will keep going. Now 2 things before we go after the steering wheel itself. We want to, of course, disconnect the electronics that are in the actual spiral cable. And then also we want to make sure before we remove the steering wheel itself that your wheels are straight and that your steering wheel is straight up and down. So you don't want to put your steering wheel on, you know, cockeyed when your wheels are straight and your steering wheel is like this. That would be quite annoying. And it can actually cause issues with the spiral cable. If you overextend it, you can damage your brand new unit that you just installed. So we have one main harness here, and that's just this little gray connector, and that's just a standard harness here. So just push down on that little tab and slide that away. And for me, I already checked my wheels are nice and straight, my steering wheel is up and down. So next we're going to take our 19 millimeter socket and take off the center nut holding the steering wheel on. You're going to need a couple extensions for this, and then just hold the steering wheel in place. There you go, and it breaks loose. Now, make sure it maintains going straight up and down, and then back this off. This thing's on here like hell won't have it. Probably a good thing, right? Don't want this sucker getting loose while you're driving. Now they have steering wheel removers that, you know, make sure that it comes off nice and straight, but honestly, if you just kind of jerk the wheel back and forth, there you go. the wheel will just come right off. Don't go immediately yanking this away because we have our 2 airbag cables that need to be fed through both sides. But once it's released, go set it aside, and now we have our spiral cable. And it seems awfully loose, but we want to make sure that this stays in the upright position. If you're reusing this, obviously the whole point of this video is to replace this, but this needs to stay in a neutral position because it can only go so far until you start to jack it up. So next we need to take off our steering column cover here, so that way we can get access to the bolts that hold this in. So to do that, we need to remove the 3 Phillips head screws that are in the bottom of the column, and then we'll just go ahead and pop these apart. These are going to be kind of like pressure fitted with little clips, and then we'll expose our whole steering column. So we have the 3 out, and I just have some little body panel sort of clip removers, and I'm just going to find a little place underneath the stalks here. There we go, and just start popping it apart. Excellent. There's some in the rear here. Let's kind of work our way down. Awesome. Oh, there we go. So the top should pop right off. Set that aside. And the bottom, you have your steering wheel adjuster. You'll just kind of have to work around that. There we go. Sweet. So our steering wheel column is exposed. Next, we need to remove our stalks here, our lights and our wipers. These are super simple. There's just 2 little clips at the top and bottom. Just push with your fingers and they slide right out. Same story over here. There we go. This one has another connector though, so that's going to have to wrap around. But again, this is simple. Just push your little finger there into the clip and it'll pop right off. We need to do that because both of those stalks are actually plugged into your spiral cable. Now we have 2 little screws here. Again, just standard Phillips head screws. We just need to pop those off and our spiral cable should come right off here. Now with those screws out or loose here, there's a little clip you need to push down with your finger at the top. And once you push that down, we can flip this over here. We can rotate it. Little screws will probably fall out. And then you just have 2 electrical connectors that are just the good old-fashioned press with your finger here and pop them out. Excellent. And there is our removed clock spring. Let's go get our new one. So I have my new spiral cable or clock spring. 2 things about this. First of all, mine that I purchased came locked in position, which is pretty great. So it's already in its neutral position. But if you don't have yours locked, when this locating pin at the top is in its neutral position, you should be able to turn it counterclockwise to approximately 2.5 times. So that's kind of how you'll know where neutral position is. If you are turning it, be very gentle to let it stop. Obviously don't torque on it because you could just tear the cable and all of this will be for nothing. So I'm going to reinstall this and then I'm going to remove this little clip that's holding it in neutral position. And then really it's just reassembly. As always, if you want to pick up this one that I'm using, I'll put a link in the description below. As of right now, I don't really remember where I bought it. I've had it sitting around the shop for a while, but I'll figure it out and I'll put it down there for you to go pick it up. So we want to grab our little connectors here and slide these into place. There we go. Get those to snap in here. It's giving me trouble. Let's try this one first. There we go. Maybe that'll do it. Yeah, there we go. So once those are both in, rotate it around here. Make sure our locating pin's at the top. Slide it into place, and then the top should snap in. There we go. And these 2 screws in the rear, they actually came pre-installed, but they have a little pin, a little locating pin that you need to slide into place, and then you can just take your screwdriver and screw these in. And now we can grab our stalks and slide those in. Also take this time to kind of clean stuff that isn't normally very accessible. So I'm just going to clean this off real quick. Real classy. I'm using nothing but water and a paper towel to clean this, and it's wiping the letters off. Whatever. Now that this is clean, remember this one has the additional connector, so you need to snap that into place. There we go. And then you should be able to slide the whole assembly in. There we go. Excellent. Next, let's grab our steering column covers and install those. Now these just kind of slide into position. Just have to fight your adjuster a little bit on the bottom here. There we go. Make sure you're not pinching any cables. Excellent. Grab the top piece, slide that in. For this, I'll push it back down here. There we go. And these will snap together. Awesome. Then just take our 3 screws, screw them back in, and secure it. After that, we just need to get our steering wheel put back together. Now we're ready to reintroduce the steering wheel. I'm going to go ahead and remove the clip that holds my clock spring in the neutral position, so now it'll rotate. And we want to reintroduce our steering wheel, and we want to make sure that these get fed through the proper holes. There's just a little gap in the, on the left side and right side of the steering wheel that those need to be fed through. So there's that one, and this one, great. And just kind of guide those through. And then your locating pin at the top needs to be slid in to the proper hole on the steering wheel. And make sure these are not pinched or anything crazy like that. They look good. And now to put it on, we want to make sure, of course, that it's straight, and then kind of wiggle it back on. So that's nearly all the way back on. And then we're going to grab our nut here, and this actually goes back on at 25 foot-pounds. Just hold the steering wheel and tighten it down. There we go. So now we're going to take our little connector here, connect that back in, just push it in. That goes directly into the clock spring. And now all we have left are the 3 connectors for the airbag itself, our ground and then our 2 other connectors. So before I put these in, I'm going to pop out these black kind of retaining clips, just like when I took them off of the other one. Then when we push those into the airbag, we'll obviously just go ahead and push those down as well. Now for the sake of being safe, I'm going to step outside of the vehicle again and just work from the side here. I'll start with the ground, push that in there, grab our yellow, push that in. It's kind of going to be hard to see because these ones seem to be shorter than the other ones here. There we go. Snap that in. Same with the orange. There we go. Excellent. Make sure those are firmly pressed in and that your ground is good. And then we want to slide this bad lad back into position. We have those last 2 10mm bolts on both sides there, and those just go in at 8 foot-pounds. So get those installed, slap the little decorative plate back on, and we are done. So now all we need to do is make sure that everything is operating the way it should. So I'm going to go back up to the front of the truck, put my battery back together, and then we'll turn the key over and see if the airbag light's still flashing. If it is, we'll go through the reset procedure, and then hopefully that will resolve that issue. All right, so here is the moment of truth. We're going to flip this on, see if our airbag is fixed, and we're going to, of course, test the horn. So right off the bat, I'm going to test the stalks. So blinkers work, windshield wipers work, excellent, headlights work. All of that's connected into the clock spring, right? So we know that that works. Then let's go ahead and start the car and see if the airbag light goes away. So I'm getting a fast blink on my airbag light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try one last thing. I'm going to go through my reset procedure. Of course, if you need that, it's going to be in the upper right-hand corner of the screen here. I go through that whole process on basically putting it into diagnostic mode, letting it recheck everything and make sure everything's okay. If that doesn't work, I might just have a bad sensor somewhere else. So I'm going to go do that. Let's see if that helps. So I went ahead and did the reset here, and I think I'm good. So let's take a look here. One last check. I'm going to put the key into the on position. My little airbag guy should stick around for a second and then go away. Hey, hey, very good. Let's start it. Make sure he stays off here. Heck yes, very good. Awesome, I'm going to call that good. Airbag light is staying off. Now, of course, there's one last test to do, and that is this. Hey, my horn works as well. we're all set. Let's go wrap up this video. Now, a lot of times jobs like this can be intimidating. You kind of feel like you're taking apart half your vehicle. You're removing things that you don't think should be removed. But if you just follow it step by step and you're very careful, it's really no big deal. This was a really simple job. Just took some standard tools and some patience, and we had it swapped out, and everything is, for me, fixed. I can't stress enough, however, just being careful with this. I always get really nervous around airbags, but it's definitely better to be careful and have, zero chance of dying than to be reckless and have even a, 0.00001% chance of dying. Contrary to some videos online, airbags are certainly no joke. But just, again, be careful and you'll be fine. As always, friends, any questions you have, please put them in the comments below. The link to the clock spring that I bought will also be down there as well. Like this video if you liked it. Also, definitely subscribe, folks. If you have an Xterra or a Titan, subscribe. I've been looking at my statistics lately, and pretty much all of you aren't subscribed, so what are you doing? Check it out. We have great videos coming out all the time on the Xterra and Frontier platform, and of course now the Titan and Armada platform. So hit subscribe down below. Stay tuned for more videos coming out very soon, and we'll see you in the next one.